So this is the most creepy experience of my life, from where I somehow saved myself and escaped, and even today when I think about that night I still feel the same fear crawling up my spine, like something cold slowly moving under my skin. This happened when I was 22 years old and I had just gotten a new job as a cab driver. At that time I was actually really happy because finding a stable job was not easy for me, and this one seemed simple. My shift was from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Most drivers didn't like the night shift, but for me it sounded perfect. At night there are fewer people on the road, fewer customers, and the owner was paying extra because of night charges, so it honestly felt like easy money. The streets are quiet, traffic is light, and most of the time you just drive peacefully while listening to music. The first few days of the job were completely normal. On the first night I only got 2 or 3 customers during the whole shift. I picked them up, dropped them off, and nothing strange happened. The second night was almost the same. I started getting comfortable with the routine. Driving through the city late at night actually felt peaceful. The streetlights reflected on the empty roads, shops were closed, and everything looked calm. By the third night I was already used to the job and started thinking this might actually be one of the easiest jobs I've ever had. But on the fourth night something happened that I still cannot explain no matter how many times I replay it in my mind. That night started exactly like the others. I reached the cab station around 8:45 p.m., checked the vehicle, made sure everything was working fine, and started my shift at 9 p.m. The first few hours passed normally. I picked up a couple of passengers and dropped them home. After that things became quiet again and I was just slowly driving around waiting for the next ride request. Around 12:30 a.m. I got a call from the station. The dispatcher told me there was a customer waiting at a bus stand near Rose Valley Cafe, which is a small local place in my area. It was about 5 kilometers away from where I was currently driving, and the drop location was another 6 kilometers in the opposite direction. I remember asking him if there was really no other cab nearby because it felt like a long distance just to pick someone up, but he said no one else was available at the moment. So I agreed. Before ending the call he said something that actually made me feel good. He told me this would probably be my last ride of the night. Hearing that made me happy because it meant after finishing this trip I could go home early and rest. I started driving toward the bus stand while playing some low jazz music in the background. The roads were empty, the night air felt calm, and everything seemed completely normal. After driving about 2 kilometers I noticed someone walking on the side of the road. When he saw my cab approaching, he raised his hand to signal me to stop. I slowed down and lowered the window slightly to tell him the cab was already booked for someone else, but before I could finish speaking he calmly said, "Actually, I booked the cab." That confused me for a second, so I asked him to step closer to the car. When he walked into the headlights I could see his face clearly for the first time. Something about him immediately felt strange. His skin looked extremely pale. Not the kind of pale you see when someone is sick or tired, but unnaturally pale, like all the color had been drained from his face completely. For a moment I just stared at him because something about his appearance made me uncomfortable. Then I remembered I needed to confirm the booking, so I asked him for the OTP. When I asked that question he suddenly froze. Completely still. His eyes opened wider and he stared at me without blinking for several seconds. It was such a strange reaction to such a simple question that I started feeling uneasy. But then suddenly he acted normal again, told me the OTP number, and when I checked it on my phone it was correct. So even though something about him didn't feel right, I unlocked the door and let him sit in the back seat. As soon as he got inside he quietly said, "Please move." His voice sounded calm but strangely emotionless. I started driving again and tried not to think too much about it. Passengers sometimes behave oddly at night, especially if they're tired or drunk. But as we continued driving I began noticing small details that slowly made everything feel more uncomfortable. The first thing I realized was that I had picked him up right next to a graveyard. I don't know how I didn't notice that before, but the cemetery gate was clearly visible when I looked back. That alone made the situation feel a little creepy, but I tried to ignore it and focused on the road. The man sitting in the back seat remained completely silent. Normally passengers say at least something during a ride, even if it's just asking how long the trip will take, but this guy didn't say a single word. Every time I glanced at the rearview mirror he was just sitting there staring forward without moving. After about 20 minutes of driving I started noticing something strange about the road. At first it was just a small detail that caught my attention. I saw a tall tree standing beside the road. There was nothing special about it except that it looked slightly crooked. A few minutes later I saw the exact same tree again. Then again. And again. At first I thought I was imagining things, but when I saw the same exact tree for the 6th time my stomach dropped. It felt impossible. Roads don't repeat like that. I started feeling real fear building inside me. Trying to stay calm, I asked the passenger if he felt like we had been in the same place for a long time. There was no response. I checked the rearview mirror again and he was just sitting there staring straight ahead, not reacting at all. The silence inside the car suddenly felt heavy and uncomfortable. A few minutes later something even stranger happened. The surroundings outside the car began changing. The open road slowly disappeared and suddenly we were driving through what looked like a forest. Tall trees appeared on both sides of the road, blocking out most of the light. That made no sense because there is absolutely no forest on that route. I started trying to calm myself down by thinking maybe I had taken a wrong turn or maybe I was just tired and confused. Then suddenly I felt something touch my shoulder from behind. My entire body froze instantly. My hand started shaking and for a moment I couldn't breathe properly. Slowly I turned my head slightly and saw the passenger leaning forward with his hand resting on my shoulder. Somehow I managed to keep my voice steady and asked, "Yes, sir." In a very low voice he asked, "Are you ready?" I didn't understand what he meant and asked, "For what?" He didn't answer. He just smiled. That smile didn't feel normal at all. It was too wide, too unnatural, like it didn't belong on a human face. A few minutes later my phone suddenly rang. It was the station calling. I answered and said, "Cab 21. I picked up the customer from Rose Valley bus stand and I'm on the way." There was a pause on the other end. Not a normal pause, but the kind where you can tell someone is trying to process something confusing. Then the dispatcher slowly said, "Repeat that. From where did you pick him?" I felt slightly confused and said again, "Near the bus stand." Rose Valley sighed. Another pause followed, this time longer. I could hear faint background noise like he was asking someone else something. When he came back on the call his voice sounded different. More serious. He asked, "Where exactly are you right now?" I looked around. All I could see were trees and darkness. No lights. No houses. No signboards. I don't know exactly," I said. "Somewhere on the route." "Why?" Then he said something that made my chest tighten instantly. "The customer is still here." For a second I thought I heard it wrong. I even laughed nervously and said, "What?" "No, he's sitting in my cab right now." I took the OTP and he cut me off. "No. Listen to me carefully. The customer is standing right here at the bus stand. He's been calling us for the last 10 minutes asking where you are." My grip on the steering wheel tightened. My eyes slowly moved toward the rearview mirror but I didn't fully look yet. I whispered, "Then. Who is in my car?" There was no response for a few seconds. Only faint static from the phone. Then his voice came back, low and serious. "Don't react. Don't look at it directly. Just tell me. Did he approach you first?" I didn't answer immediately because I already knew the answer. Yes. Dead silence followed. Then he quietly muttered, "Shit." I could hear movement on his side, chairs shifting and someone asking what happened. Then he returned to the call and said loudly, "Listen to me very carefully. You need to leave the car. Right now. I froze. What? Are you serious? I'm in the middle of nowhere, leave the car, he shouted. Open the door and run. Don't argue. Don't wait. Don't look back. Just run as far as you can. My throat went dry. I slowly asked, what is that thing? He didn't answer directly. Instead he said something that made my blood turn cold. If it spoke to you, you don't have much time. At that exact moment I felt something shift behind me. Slowly, against my better judgment, I looked into the rearview mirror. What I saw was no longer the same person. Its face looked stretched and unnatural. The smile on its face was far too wide. Its body looked smaller and twisted in a strange way. Long white hair covered parts of its face and its eyes looked hollow. Then I noticed something that I will never forget for the rest of my life. Its legs were bent backwards. Completely backwards like an animal. I didn't think twice. I slammed the brakes, threw the door open, and ran. Behind me it screamed, a sound that didn't sound human at all. I ran into the forest and hid behind a large tree, trying to stay quiet while my heart pounded violently in my chest. I could hear it moving somewhere nearby, walking slowly, searching for me. The footsteps were heavy and uneven. I carefully peeked from behind the tree and saw it moving between the trees. Its long nails scraped against the bark and its body kept twisting in unnatural ways like it couldn't stay in one shape. The footsteps got closer. I crouched down in the bushes, barely breathing. For a moment I thought it would find me. Then suddenly it moved away. That was my chance. I ran back toward the car as fast as I could, jumped inside, locked the doors, and started the engine. It saw me immediately. It started running toward the car and slammed against the window again and again until the glass cracked. But I didn't stop. I pressed the accelerator and drove as fast as I possibly could. In the rearview mirror I could see it chasing the car for a few seconds before it suddenly disappeared into the darkness. Somehow I managed to reach the main road and drive back to the station. The next day I went back to that same road with 2 other drivers to see the place again in daylight. But there was no forest. No graveyard. Nothing strange at all. Just a normal empty road. I quit that job the same day.